Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Hi, my name is Rachel if you're new here. I have recently revamped my channel into BookTube and we're gonna kick it off with a good video. Very excited about this. And it is books to read when you're in a reading slump. That is exactly why I rebranded my whole channel because of a reading slump and I was tired. So I want to give you some of my own personal advice of things I've done when I haven't been able to read like I want to. If I have the desire to read and I can't find anything, or things aren't holding my interest, or I don't know what I want to read, or I'll pick up a book and then wind up gravitating to my phone instead. I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of things that I find help a lot. So the first thing I find that helps a lot is to read your favorite genre. For me, my favorite genre is either like contemporary, thriller, something fast-paced, something kind of short, but that will keep me engaged and want me to figure out, find out what happens. So I need something kind of engaging. And, if you're in a reading slump, sometimes the format too doesn't matter. Sometimes you just need to give yourself a little push. And I found what really helps me out is instead of, watching a YouTube video or something when I'm cleaning or when I'm driving, instead of like trying to find a song I want to listen to, I put on an audiobook instead. And there's a lot of really good audiobooks out there, and some people kind of say audiobooks don't really count. I disagree. I think it counts. My dogs are up. Anytime I start talking, they're up. You on candid camera? Okay. All of a sudden, I turn on the camera and all of a sudden they're very interested in that bone over in the corner. Both of them. They weren't interested in it before I turned on the camera. It was just when I turned on the camera. Okay, so we're gonna try to ignore my dogs and we're gonna get into some books that I recommend. Now I have a variety of genres here. So I think I'm gonna start with classics. Now, I don't think you should do it to yourself. If you're having a hard time reading, I think the last thing you should do is pick up some crazy long classic novel that is just gonna set you up to fail. So my recommendation is John Steinbeck, Of Mice and Men, but I can't find my copy. I don't know where it is. But I do have The Red Pony. Like, The Red Pony is just under it's exactly 100 pages. It is short. I've had this copy for years. Okay, like this copy's been through stuff. I did a book report on this in high school. I haven't read this book in a really long time, and I will tell you, it's very Depression era. It's John Steinbeck. It's Northern California. It's on a ranch. It's about a boy and a pony. I find John Steinbeck books to be really accessible, and if I'm in a reading slump, sometimes I'll just reread like Of Mice and Men, to be honest. Like, I just find that kind of gets me out of it. His writing's very familiar to me. He's like one of my favorite classic authors, and so he's always a winner for me. Another book I recommend is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. There's adaptations of this book right and left. Like, we all know the story. We all know the basic thing about this story. So reading it will be kind of familiar. And also, it's very short, but I find that Mary Shelley's writing is very accessible too. Like, sometimes it's nice to find a classic author that you can really get sucked into their story by the way they write and how they describe things. And I find that Mary Shelley is very good at doing just that. So, and I like this edition I have too. And this particular edition's like under 300 pages. So No big deal, right? Okay. Well, excuse me. So I think I'll go into next to fantasy. I personally don't read fantasy when I'm in a reading slump because I find sometimes it's a little hard for me to get into a book because it can usually be very complex. There's a lot of world building, and getting just orientated sometimes when you're in a slump is not always something you want to do. So I don't have very many recommendations for like fantasy novels, but I do have one that I think is a really fun book, is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I haven't read the second book, but one of the things I like about this book that makes me want to recommend it for someone who's in a reading slump is the chapters are short. You know, you're getting somewhere, you're making some progress, and it keeps you engaged because chapters are so short. And like a lot of these chapters, if I remember correctly, they leave you on a cliffhanger. So it's like, well, I might as well keep reading. And you keep going because you're like, well, the chapters are really short. And before you know it, you're just like almost done with the book completely. So I recommend books with short chapters. I think those are really helpful. All right, so next we'll go into nonfiction. Now for me, nonfiction, when I'm in a reading slump, I want to read something that's going to make me smile and make me laugh. Like I want something kind of lighthearted, so I like memoirs. Those are some of my favorite books. And I love any book that's written by someone who was on the cast of Saturday Night Live. Like I just absolutely love reading behind the scenes stories of what it's like to work on SNL. So I don't have a copy of Tina Fey's book, but I do recommend Bossy Pants. I think that book is amazingly hilarious. It makes me laugh. I've listened to it on audio so many times. And also Yes Please by Amy Poehler. This one is one of my favorite books, and it's so good on audio because Amy narrates it, like Tina narrates her book and Amy narrates this book. She's got a lot of anecdotes from working at Second City and on Saturday Night Live and Parks and Rec, which is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. It's like way up there. And this book is just awesome. So it's like when you love a comedian, like for me, I like to read books about comedians. And when you love a comedian, you just want to know more about their life. And this is a very engaging book. It's really funny. She's got so many jokes. She's hilarious. And so is Tina. Like I love Amy Poehler's birthing plan. That cracked me up. And there's some really sweet anecdotes at the end. Like there's a picture of her. I don't know where it is, but there's a picture of her and her sons. And they're sitting on her car and they're like chasing the moon or something. It's adorable. If you have a favorite actor or comedian or something and they've had a book out, go get that book and read it. It will probably help you out a lot. All right, we're gonna go into historical fiction next. I love historical fiction, so it was really hard to narrow it down, but the first book I want to talk about is actually a movie now, and I think the movie is really good personally, but I read this book probably back in 2010, I want to say, when I was in a book club, and I absolutely loved this book to the point of where I still love this book. And it is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. It's a mouthful, I know, but trust me, this book is so good. I didn't even know of the existence of Guernsey until I read this book. And now, like, it is my bucket list old lady trip. Like I will be 70 and I'm gonna go to Guernsey. It's like I have an old lady trip planned for myself to Guernsey. Okay, it's because listen, I need to be old when I go. I don't know why, it just feels right. This book takes place during World War II on the island of Guernsey during the Nazi occupation. And it's basically written in correspondence, so that helps a lot to make it move along a lot quicker. Juliet Ashton receives letter from a stranger, the founding member of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, And so begins a remarkable tale of the island of Guernsey during the German occupation, and the society as extraordinary as the name. And yes, there is legit potato peel pie in here. I think it's from food being scarce, so it's a thing. But this book has so much heart and soul, and it's so emotional, and it's so engaging, and I absolutely, and the movie is really good too. So yes, check that book out for sure. Another book I have, which is, it's a local treasure for me because this book takes place in Seattle, and it's also during World War II, but it's during the Japanese internment camps, which I don't think I've seen very many books written about that period. And in Seattle, there's a few places that had internment camps. One in particular is the Washington State Fairgrounds in Puyallup. It's kind of creepy to go there for the Puyallup Fair every year and know that this used to be an internment camp. And I'm eating a funnel cake. So yeah, love that for us. So anyways, this book is called Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. And it's between a Chinese boy and a Japanese girl, their children. And the thing that stood out for me the most is the Chinese kid had to put on a button of some sort that says, "I am Chinese," so that he wouldn't be, so people wouldn't mistake him for being Japanese, because this is during World War II, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There was a lot of racism and phobia, and so that he wouldn't be targeted. And it follows the journey of these two kids, and it's so good. When we had a book club meeting, we actually kicked ourselves because there was a Panama Hotel in Seattle's Japantown, which is now the International District, and we kind of kicked ourselves that we didn't go meet at that restaurant that the book was describing. So a lot of the places in the book are actual real places. It's like this book. These two books just have so much heart and soul in them. I absolutely adore them, and these are always my go-to recommendations for anybody who's looking for something to read. These are always my two recommendations. I also think if you're in a book slump, go read one of your favorite books. Do it. Just read a book you know that you love. Just reread it. Boom. Nailed it. You're welcome. All right. Now, I am a huge thriller and horror fan, and honestly, I only have one book to recommend, but I want to mention a few other books, like, I don't know, Stephen King. If you haven't read Carrie, I recommend listening to it on audiobook because Sissy Spacek narrates Carrie. So Carrie narrates Carrie. It's the best experience you'll ever have. Go get it on audio. Even if you've read it and you're like, "Ooh, I love Carrie." You haven't read the audio, you haven't heard the audio? What are you doing? Go. Well, don't go just yet. Wait till I'm done. And then go. But so that's my go-to Stephen King recommendation. Also, another recommendation I would have with Stephen King is his short stories. Oh my gosh, short stories are always the best. My favorite short story collection definitely is Different Seasons. Definitely check that out if you haven't. I don't have it on me. I should have grabbed it, but it's okay. Short stories are always good. So, but what I have to recommend is a thriller. People have heard of this, but I have When No One Is Watching, and this is like a Jordan Peele movie. It's like so bizarre. What is that movie called? I can't think of the movie. This is about the gentrification of Brooklyn, and I absolutely loved this book because it was so realistic yet so bizarre. And so it follows this woman, Sydney, who was a native, born and raised in Brooklyn. And all of a sudden things just start popping up, like condos. Her neighbors start disappearing and new people are like moving in. And it's like bizarre. And it just gets weirder and weirder as you go. And you start questioning her sanity at times. It's just like unreliable narration, weird atmosphere. It's got atmosphere. And like, you feel like if you've been to Brooklyn, which I love Brooklyn. Actually, it's like one of my favorite boroughs in New York is Brooklyn for sure. I love Brooklyn. I want to go to Brooklyn right now. Okay, everyone, let's go to Brooklyn. Let's just go. Come on, let's go. We're just gonna go to Brooklyn, okay? We'll have a meetup. I loved the idea of it. It was so weird and creepy, and it's something that you kind of joke about when you hear about a neighborhood being gentrified, but she just takes this to a whole other level. And I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to spoil anything. I want to be vague. I want to reread this when no one is watching. Oh, I'm not getting authors. I'm terrible. Alyssa Cole. I'll link all these books in my description. So if you want to read one of these books, just click on my description and they'll be all linked. So I got you. Okay. Next I have romance and contemporary. So pull these over. My favorite go-to when I'm in a reading slump is like a fluffy romance novel or a nice beachy kind of read, contemporary fiction. I love it. It's really good. So the first one I have is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Honestly, I could read almost anything by Christina Lauren and I'm gonna love it. I had the biggest smile on my face the whole time. It's Christina and Lauren, so it's two authors, but their writing is so good. I just love it. I just had this huge smile. I just enjoyed the whole adventure, and it's just one of those completely unrealistic plots. Basically, Olive, who is at a wedding for her twin sister, and then there's this guy there that she doesn't like, Ethan, and she's like, oh, I can't stand this guy, so she puts on this brave face, and then everybody at the wedding gets food poisoning, including the bride and groom. So the bride and the groom are too sick to go on their honeymoon to Maui. So the only two people that didn't get food poisoning is Ethan and Olive. So they go on in place of the bride and groom, and hijinks ensues. And it's like, when I first started reading, I was like, yeah, right. I'm gonna be giving up my honeymoon for nothing. I'll be barfing my way over to Maui. So it takes place on Maui, and it's just like the setting itself is great, and the love story is adorable, and I fell in love. And I will tell you, like the first few chapters I was like, I don't know about this, but then once they got there, it was just this ride, and I loved it. And I read this so fast. Like I didn't want to put it down. I didn't want to be away from them. When it was over, I wanted like a part 2. Can we have a part 2? I miss them. I'm sad, but they were like my favorite couple. Loved them. Was just adorable. And then I have another author that everything I read by this author I absolutely love. And I know she's not everybody's favorite. And I will say some of her books kind of scream upper class white girl privilege. But I don't know, when I'm in a reading slump, sometimes I just want to read something that's kind of unrealistic. And I find that sometimes YA is kind of helpful because I can get through YA novel pretty quickly sometimes, especially YA contemporary. So my favorite YA contemporary author is definitely Morgan Matson, and I have The Unexpected Everything. This is not one of my favorite books, but I did have to use the cover as an example. But don't get me wrong. Just because it's not one of my favorites doesn't mean I didn't like it. I loved this book. First of all, it takes place during the summer. Girl gets a dog walking job, okay? And sure, her dad's like a senator, is it? I don't know. He's in politics, and he gets involved in some sort of scandal, and so she loses like some sort of what does she have going? Something that she had going on over the summer with like an Ivy League school, and they pulled her from it. So she's stuck at home in like Connecticut, which I know this is the part where like privilege. But so she ends up taking this dog walking job, but it's so cute. It's so cute. It was like the same thing with the Unhoneymooners. Like I had the hugest smile on my face the whole time. I was like, this is adorable. Like I would sit outside on my deck in the sun and read, and it was great. But my absolute favorite Morgan Matson book, I have to say, is Amy and Roger. Is it Roger? Yes. Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. It's a road trip book, which when you're in a reading slump, road trip books are the best. And that one's also completely unrealistic. Like the daughter, her parents just let her drive cross country with some random dude. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. But it's the best. And they have like a playlist, and it's just really fun. Move on to, let's see. I'm currently reading a book by this author. Everything I've read by this author, I've absolutely adored. And I don't have a copy of the one I really want to recommend, but I don't know. A lot of people have read this book, but I'm going to recommend it anyways, just in case. And that's Taylor Jenkins Reid, Daisy Jones and the Six, or Malibu Rising. And then also The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. All three of those books I absolutely love. I think my favorite would probably be The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That book was probably one of my favorites of hers. But I loved the other two just as much. And I really liked Daisy Jones and the Six. And I hear that the audiobook is awesome because they have like a cast of characters, so it's like listening to a movie. But anyways, it's about a band in the 70s in Hollywood, like on Sunset. It kind of has Fleetwood Mac vibes to it. Big time Fleetwood Mac. Just loved the setting. Hollywood in the 70s. Yes, please. Thank you. You guys need to write way more books about Hollywood in the 70s because that shit is popping. And then one day this band just breaks up and no one knows why. And so this interview is like saying what actually happened. This book is just great. There's like sex, drugs, rock and roll. It's the best. Again, it's an author that I've read numerous books by, and every book I've read has been just such an incredible journey. And I don't know if I should consider this contemporary, but I'm going to go ahead and consider it contemporary fiction. But anyways, it's Fredrik Backman's A Man Called Ove. I listened to this on audio when I was doing a vaccine clinic for the COVID vaccine. I basically was in a room on a laptop processing vaccines, like hundreds, all day in a clinic. And I listened to this in book pretty much in its entirety. And I swear to God, I kept reacting. I would have out loud reactions to this book. And everyone who was in the room with me knew after a while, she's just really enjoying her book, because I warned everybody, I was like, I'm really into this book. I'm sorry if I shout something. Sorry. It's just, I'm having an experience. And so I'm just in this room typing away on my laptop like, what? Or I'd be like, holy crap, that's hilarious. Oh, sorry, book. type. Anyways, I want to describe it as, have you ever seen the movie As Good As It Gets? Because it kind of reminds me of that. Yes, man, he's so grumpy. And he likes his life a certain way, kind of like Jack Nicholson's character in As Good As It Gets a little bit. And he ends up being like this cranky old man, and you end up just falling in love with him. The characters felt so real. Like, I felt like I was a part of the neighborhood that he was in. And I just, like, at first you hate him. You think he's, oh my God, what a crab. Like, dude, you know, I was telling everybody, like, it reminds me of like some cranky patient that would come in. You'd be like, oh God, it's that guy again. And then you would just end up, you find out that this guy is just absolutely amazing. And he's just, the ending, I was literally like trying not to cry at work. Was literally typing like, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and I'll be right back. And I was like, is the book good? Is it, I'm having some feelings, but I'm okay. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom and I will be right back. So yeah. So those are my recommendations that I have. If you have any other recommendations that you'd like to add on, you know, leave a comment. That helps out people. And I always say, go for something short, go for something that you like, go for a genre that you love. And if you can't find anything that you want to read, then reread or audiobook or graphic novels. Graphic novels are great ways to get back into book. You feel like you accomplish something when you read a graphic novel super fast. So yeah, I got you. Everyone have a great night, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye.